I'm Randy Altman with Post Perspective. We're here at NAB 2015, and I have some guys here from from Technicolor Postworks in New York. I've got Joe Bierne and Matt Schneider. Hello.
Hello. How are you doing?
Maybe we could start off by telling me, what was your roadmap when you came out here? What were you hoping to see, and what did you see, and what was impressive? Talk a bit about that. You want to talk about high dynamic range?
Well, we come out with usually a basket of things that we're looking at. We have a very wide kind of purview. The Technicolor and Postworks, both flavors of the company, have slightly different foci. We're looking at everything, so we look at everything from run and gun kind of reality TV acquisition stuff that we comes in on our into our editorial group, and all the way out to 4K digital cinema finishing, and including high frame rates, stereo, HDR, all in one project that we're currently attempting to do. HDR is the big buzzword in the kind of It's the thing that clients are, I think, the most concerned about being ready for. We're starting to see it now in delivery. It's a little, the specifications and the standards are a little aspirational, more than real. And everybody says, well, we're about 6 months out from actually delivering. We have a story there that Technicolor has a product, a plugin that they just started to show that currently plugs into Resolve and it's a luster, and I think it's coming for Baselight that lets you work flexibly in 709, but also and master in 709T material that was originally graded for 709 and stretch it tonally out to a more HDR friendly, more to 2020 space and HDR, and that's interesting, and we have content that probably will go that way. We're more dealing now with people who want to do HDR grading and put it on the shelf, and that's something that's interesting. We have just acquired displays that are capable of running that stuff.
So future-proofing in a way?
Future-proofing a bit, yeah. Like some of the early 4K stuff that we did for broadcast was put on the shelf, and we would conform and deliver a VAM that was 4K, but honestly we would not perfect that show. We would do an HD version. There's some stuff like that that's happening with HDR now, but and that's more kicking the tires, I think, on the part of our clients. What are the big themes of this?
I guess we really can't go through this kind of discussion without mentioning 4K in some capacity. It's certainly represented. That number in that letter is represented in almost every booth. The only thing that I would point to as far as differentiating this year from previous years is it's really much more accessible. There's a lot more to offer in terms of the software-based environments that now support the larger rasters. The off-the-shelf video I/O solutions from Matrox and Blackmagic and AJ, they all now support it. The non-linear editor tools now support it. And on the other side of the spectrum, all the image processing tool sets that deal with degrain or regrain or dust fix and that kind of thing are now supporting the larger rasters and are doing so in some cases with dedicated accelerated hardware. So it's less buzz and more real, which is nice. More specifically, I think we came here looking to continue to support the ongoing and emerging 4K finishing workflows that we have going on back home. In fact, some of the stuff that we've been doing recently really represents kind of the intersection of the 4K digital cinema world with the nonfiction reality TV world. We just recently finished our first nonfiction show in 4K using a combination of Avid Media Composer and a full Baselight system. So it's a little bit of the digital cinema methods combined with some of the nonfiction content that we spend a lot of time on.
Can you mention that project by name?
I think we can. We can talk about that, I believe. It's a 1-hour documentary called, it's part of the Pristine Seas series of documentaries that I think are going to be offered by National Geographic. And this is something that really was, it sort of represented all layers of history, so to speak, over the last 10 years, because this was shot in 5K and 4K on Canon 1DC and Red, but it was offline line on Final Cut 7, God bless them, and then we conformed it, media composed, and we graded in a Bayside, so it was a mixture of old and new.
Can you talk a little bit, if you want to, about New York? And there's just so much production going on there right now. Have you guys benefited from all of it? Just seems, and it's so funny to be in such a bad winter. Every show, there's snow everywhere. It's like gray. The actors are freezing, and it's very funny. But there's so much production going on, and I know there's also post-production incentives as well. So, what are some of the projects that you guys are working on in terms of?
We've had a bunch of starts in New York. We have some interesting things. Like we're delivering our first over-the-top series, the Kimmy Schmidt that we're doing for Netflix. That started as an ABC show and became an over-the-top program. And that's been a big hit. We're currently working on David Simon project for HBO. I don't know if it's an official name, but that's a very interesting show. We're continuing to do Vice for the Vice magazine show for HBO.
Sure.
What else do we have announced that's interesting?
Certainly New York is just a hotspot for any scripted television content. A lot of work for HBO, Showtime, NBC, Fox certainly. Those are clients, for the most part, those are the fun jobs that tend to represent mature workflows. Although we started to see the dramatic television series express an interest in shooting in larger frame sizes, which is starting to become more normal.
Yeah, the nice thing about we've had some help from the state in terms of tax incentives, and actually what that's done more than anything else, it's kind of evened things out a bit. So New York has always been a production center. It's not like we had to induce film production in New York, but it's nice to have a little bit more steady, sort of reliable things, and we've been able to capitalize literally on that and grow, to accommodate a more consistent roster of projects that are. It just makes things a little bit more consistent, and obviously it's helped everybody in terms of life planning and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Is there anything else that from the show that we haven't touched upon that you think is important? And so if this is the year of the high dynamic range, what do you see coming for next year at NAB?
Good question.
The low dynamic range will be chic again. We'll go back to that. Like analog is coming back.
Less detail is less is more. Less image data is better. Just try to leave as many bits on the floor as we can.
Things that are slightly boring sounding, media management, metadata management is a big, automation, I would say. As a CTO of a company like ours, that automation is a big, is part of my thinking about a lot of things. We see more processes becoming sort of lights out, and freeing up creative people to do creative stuff and do some of the drudgery to have that be more system-based and like RESTful interface kind of having that be the assumption in new products. I wouldn't be surprised if some level of AI kind of came to our world as well. And we're starting to see little glimmers of that. Right?
Yeah, I know NVIDIA had their GPU conference, and there was a lot of that.
Yeah, interesting crossovers to the other guys, because the entertainment industry is one kind of visualization industry, but there are many others, and we start to interact and intersect with the medical, scientific, oil exploration worlds also, and that's we start borrowing from each other. There's a lot, and particularly things like high resolution, high dynamic range is very interesting when you're looking beyond the human visual system for imaging, and so I think there'll be some interpenetration of those markets with ours. I don't know if that's at NAB, but we certainly see that in the research community. That's coming.
I think one of the things that we're already looking forward to for next year is at some point in the next 12 months there'll be a little bit more, hopefully more maturity when it comes to 4K displays. Right now there's a big gulf, I think, between you can buy a consumer television set for $1,200 and that's 4K. You can spend $20,000, $30,000, or $40,000 on a professional 4K display. It doesn't seem to be a standout winner that really represents the middle market, something that's a little bit more affordable but can represent hopefully mature color science.
Yeah, and that's something we very badly need, to equip hundreds of cutting rooms with a monitor that we understand fully and can stand behind.
Also, the other thing I'm really looking forward to is I'm hoping, I'm kind of crossing my fingers on this, that every year you always take note of which different vendors that never worked together before are suddenly working together. And I think that's not a new thing per se, and every year that you're surprised by some of the alliances, but some of the glimpses that we've seen of differing vendors that really had nothing, either didn't have anything to do with each other before, or were outright competitors, have started to shake hands. And I can think of a few marriages that I'm really looking forward to next year. And maybe that's because software and hardware manufacturers are realizing that they can no longer do it all, and then they're going to have to be choosy about which aspects of the whole workflow, start to finish, they focus on. So that's something I'm really hoping to see evolve in the next year, and pray for the hybrid vigor will come out of that, and that will be good for everyone. The other thing I really would love to see is I'd love to see asset management tools come down in price. The most mature asset management tools out there still tend to be, and I'm speaking in general terms, tend to be more enterprise broadcast oriented, tend to be very expensive, and tend to be very, very, very good at what they do. I think there's still a whole slice of the market that does not quite use asset management as well as it could or should, and I think some of that has to do with the impediments due to cost. So I'd love to see that world become a little bit more accessible to some of the smaller production outfits out there, and that of course opens up big opportunities for metadata handling, better metadata handling, starting at the lens all the way to delivery.
Thank you guys so much for
Thank
taking
you.
the time to sit down and chat. This was really great. Really appreciate it.
Great to see you.
Joe, Matt, Technicolor Postworks. I'm Randy Altman, Post Perspective, NAB 2015. Take care.